All right, today we are diving into a really big one, a policy that is fundamentally changing the rules of global trade. We're talking about the EU's Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, or CBAM. We're going to break down exactly how this new climate rule is creating a massive test for India's entire economy. So let's just get right to it. How about this for a headline? A new green policy in Europe could slap Indian exports with a staggering 22% price shock. I mean, just imagine, you're an Indian steel exporter. Almost overnight, your products could get hit with that kind of price hike just to enter the European market. And look, this isn't some far-off what-if scenario. It's the potential reality of CBAM. For anyone studying policy, especially for exams, understanding this is absolutely crucial. So here's how we're going to unpack this. First, we'll set the stage, this new climate trade challenge. Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty, what exactly is CBAM? After that, we'll look at why India, specifically, is so vulnerable. Then, the really interesting part, how the India-EU Free Trade Agreement became the battleground for a response. And finally, we'll look at the strategic path forward for India. Okay, so what we're seeing here is a huge shift, a real turning point. With the EU's CBAM, a product's carbon footprint, well, it's not just an environmental issue anymore. It's now a hard economic number. It literally determines whether your goods can even compete in one of the world's biggest markets. This is exactly where climate goals start acting like trade rules. You've got to understand, this policy is a central part of the EU's massive Fit for 55 climate plan, and its main goal? To stop something called carbon leakage. Think of it like this. If you make it really expensive to pollute in, say, Germany, what's stopping a company from just picking up its factory and moving it somewhere with looser rules? Well, CBAM is the EU's answer. It's their attempt to make sure their climate efforts aren't just getting outsourced to other countries. So what is this thing really, when you strip it all down? In simple terms, CBAM is the world's very first carbon border tax. It puts a price on specific carbon-heavy goods coming into the EU, and that price is based directly on the emissions that were created to make them. And this slide right here, it lays out the EU's logic perfectly. Inside the EU, a steel producer has to pay a carbon tax, right? Which makes their product more expensive. But an Indian producer who doesn't have that same tax can obviously sell their steel for less. So from the EU's point of view, CBAM is just leveling the playing field. It's making sure the imported stuff faces the same carbon cost as the local stuff. And that gets right to the heart of the matter, this idea of carbon leakage. For the EU, this is not just about protecting their own industries. It's about stopping a global game of whack-a-mole, where you stamp out emissions in one place, only for them to pop right back up in another. It's their way of trying to make climate action a global thing, not just a local one. Now let's look at the timeline, because this is important. We're actually in the middle of it right now. The transitional phase kicked off in October 2023. At this moment, it's all about reporting. Companies have to report their emissions data. But the date you really need to circle on your calendar is January 1st, 2026. That's when the financial part, the actual tax, goes into full effect. The clock is definitely ticking. So this brings us to the core issue for India. Why is the country seen as so uniquely exposed to this new policy? Well, it's really a perfect storm of what India exports, how that stuff is made, and the very structure of its industries. Wow, this chart tells you everything you need to know. This isn't some broad, shallow impact that affects everyone a little bit. No, this is a laser-focused hit. Just look at that first bar. Iron and steel. It accounts for nearly 90% of the exposure. This means CBAM isn't just some general trade problem for India. It's a direct threat to a core pillar of its entire industrial export machine. So the big question is why? Why is Indian steel so carbon heavy? And it really all boils down to technology. India's steel industry overwhelmingly relies on the old-school blast furnace method, which uses a ton of coal and, you guessed it, pumps out a lot of CO2. Compare that to many developed countries, which have moved to electric arc furnaces. They use more recycled steel scrap and are way, way cleaner. This technology gap is the real root of India's vulnerability here. And this isn't just a problem for the huge corporations. Think about the thousands and thousands of small and medium-sized businesses, the MSMEs, that are the backbone of India's exports. They don't have fancy consultants to track every puff of smoke. And if they can't provide verified data, the EU is just going to hit them with a high default penalty. For these small businesses, that's not really a tax. It's basically an eviction notice from the European market. And all of this raises a massive question of fairness, which was put really well in a report by UNCTAD. They basically asked, is the climate benefit, which they estimate as a tiny 0.1% reduction in global CO2, Really worth the huge development cost it forces on countries like India? It's a powerful critique that frames CBAM not just as a climate tool, but as a potential trade weapon that hits developing nations the hardest. But here's the twist. India didn't just stand on the sidelines and protest, it got to the negotiating table. The whole response to the CBAM challenge was strategically woven into the much larger India-EU free trade agreement, a deal so big people have called it the mother of all deals. This is where the story pivots from just identifying the problem to actually finding a solution. So, how did India pull this off? How did it manage to defuse this trade bomb? Let's walk through the key wins in the FTA. First, most favored nation treatment. This is huge. It's a safety net. If the EU gives a better deal on CBAM to anyone else, India automatically gets that same deal, no questions asked. Second, getting Indian verifiers accredited. This is a practical, common-sense win that saves Indian exporters a ton of money and hassle. Third, and this is the big one, getting the EU to recognize any carbon price paid in India. This stops double taxation and, more importantly, it gives India a real reason to build its own carbon market. And finally, the EU actually committed to technical and financial help to the tune of about 500 million euros to help Indian industries make the green switch. And you can see the strategy reflected right here in this quote from the Commerce Minister, Piyush Goyal. The approach wasn't about picking a fight. It was about dialogue, trust, and finding creative solutions. It really underscores India's choice to work within the system to protect its interests. So, the free trade agreement created a crucial opening. It provides a framework. But the really hard work? That's just beginning. The challenge of CBAM now has to become the very catalyst that drives deep structural change back home in India. And this slide basically lays out the new blueprint. The FTA bought India some breathing room, but the real solution has to be domestic. To take advantage of that deal, India has to build its own robust carbon trading scheme, one that the EU will actually recognize. It needs a credible, nationwide system for monitoring and verifying emissions. And, of course, it has to pour resources into R&D for cleaner tech, especially in that critical steel sector. This isn't just about environmental policy anymore. This is now about economic survival. And all of this leaves us with one final, really big question. We've seen the problem, and we've seen how a negotiated solution was hammered out. So, could this India-EU model, using a massive trade deal to smooth out the friction between climate goals and development needs, could that become a blueprint for the rest of the world? It's really the first major test case for whether global climate action can be done fairly. And you can bet the whole world is watching to see how it plays out.